Alright, so it's been about 24 hours since the Marathon Server Slam dropped, at least as of the making of this video, and I've played it for 6 and probably read hot takes on Twitter for about 4 to get the gaming sphere's sentiment and vibe on the game, and I have a lot of things to say, both good and bad. There are so many angles to talk about with this game, and I want to address them all in this one long, comprehensive video. The video is mostly just going to be gameplay from my stream yesterday, so feel free to just sit back and listen. And speaking of streaming, come check me out on Twitch at itsdizzle7. I've been streaming variety for a year now and absolutely loving it, and I would love to hang out with you. I'm starting the Souls games in March, and I'm very excited to play them all. Anyways, let's get to the topic of the video, my thoughts on Marathon after day 1. The game peaked at 143,000 players on Steam and sits around 60,000 players as of writing this script. Granted, it is a Friday morning, so this could bump up by the weekend, but in all honesty, I'd be shocked. The truth of the matter is this game is just painfully average. I really do hate the modern day internet where every game is either a masterpiece or the worst game ever made. I've seen a lot of takes on Twitter that people either love Marathon or hate it, and if you're in the tiny Twitter echo chamber, the reason that appears to be true is that that is the only type of posts that get engagement. That is what the algorithm pushes, polarity. So if all you are seeing are people saying it's the worst dog shit ever made in the next Concord, then you believe everyone thinks that. And on the flip side, you have the shills who are glazing it as the best game ever, the game with the greatest gunplay and the greatest art style to ever exist. But dig a little deeper, away from all the rage bait on both sides of the aisle, and I think the silent majority just sees this game as something very average, which is where I land on Marathon. We recently had a game called Highguard come out, and because of its showcase as the final reveal at the Game Awards, people were foaming at the mouth to hate on this game. People jumped in for one game just so that they could shit on it and say they played it and leave a bad review. That's just the reality. People now just do what will get clicks. I played that game for over 30 hours, and you know what? I did enjoy my time with it. I enjoyed it for what it was. Truth is, there's nothing wrong with a 30-hour game. However, the publishers wanted it to be an ongoing live service like Apex Legends, but that game simply does not have the depth to it. The core game mode is honestly a lot of fun, and the more I played it, the more I enjoyed it. But there is no progression systems in place in that game to keep people hooked for the long term. I made a video on my second channel saying the hate for Highguard was overblown, and I think it was. The like to dislike ratios on most of my videos are usually in the high 90s, but for that Highguard video, it sits at 56%, all because I dared to say I didn't hate the game, but people just wanted to hate that game. Any discourse even suggesting that it isn't bad was met with hate. You had to shit on every aspect of that game, or you were just a shill. But that game is perfectly average. It did have very bad performance issues at launch, so I get the argument from a technical perspective, but from simply the gameplay standpoint, it is a good enough time. It didn't have me addicted and it didn't blow my socks off, but I also didn't hate it at any point during my playthrough. So finally, that brings me to Marathon. Tons of those same weirdos are out there saying it's the next Concord, and I want to nip that narrative in the bud right now. You know how I know this game won't be the next Concord? Because, as I said, I read Marathon takes for like 4 hours between last night and this morning. No one said a fucking peep about Concord until the studio shut down. Then it was just people pointing and laughing at their failure. The head of Destiny once said in a GDC talk that the only thing worse than hate for your game is apathy, when people just don't even care enough to talk about it. And he's totally right.
As long as you have a community of players who care about and are passionate about your game. Even when that passion is being expressed as like anger or frustration. Anger, we eventually learn, like anger is not the opposite of loving a game. Anger is like 2 degrees off from loving a game, and they both come from passion, from people who are highly engaged with what you're making. And the opposite of loving a game, the thing that could kill you, is apathy. And that's so much more scary than anger.
For every person hating on Marathon, there's another person saying they love it. There's actual discourse. Polarizing as that discourse may be, people are talking about the game. And that means it at least registers some type of feeling. So no, this game won't be the next Concord. Highguard, sure, you could maybe argue it's the next Concord, though less so because I don't think it costs as much to make. So it won't be as big a failure. We gotta remember, Concord was a truly rare thing. But again, in the age of outrage discourse online, every game is either the next Concord or the greatest thing since Elden Ring, and it's very tiresome. As is people saying they played the game for 30 minutes and uninstalled it. You cannot get a gauge on a game in that short amount of time. You just can't. Hell, even my 5 hours on Marathon is not enough to give a super detailed breakdown, but I at least gave it an honest to God shot and engaged with the game's core systems, tried different maps and different characters, etc. So now with that out of the way, I can get off my soapbox and stop lamenting the sad state of online discussion when it comes to gaming in 2026. So here comes my actual measured take on Marathon. We'll start with when I first booted up the game. You must install kernel level anti-cheat with the BattlEye launcher. Any Destiny 2 player knows that BattlEye isn't the best anti-cheat. So in 6 months, when people are complaining about cheating in Marathon, don't count me as shocked. Real ones know. Then you jump right into an extraction on toxicity 4. I hate when games do this. Let me get into the menu and adjust my fucking keybinds first. This is just a personal thing, but I've always hated when games force you into an activity to start. Destiny would do this at the start of some of their seasons sometimes as well, and I think Arc Raiders did in their server slam. I just don't like it. I plugged in my controller just because I figured it would be easier to navigate before I could see my keybinds. Anyways, then we finally got into the game, and holy shit, what are these menus, man? I was asking my chat if I was actually just stupid, because these menus are something else. And everything you learn about just feels like a wall of text. Maybe other games do this as well, but it doesn't feel nearly as jarring. I don't know what it is. Some people have said it's all the different fonts, other people have pointed out the line spacing, but the fact is, it just does not feel good to read. And I'm someone who pretty much reads everything in games too. Hollow Knight Silksong has some of the best text in the industry, truly. I also played the Death Stranding games and I read all the stuff in those games, and that's like a novel of text. However, it's laid out in a way that's much more digestible. I never minded reading in those games, so I'm not against reading things in a game, but something about it in this game just does not feel good at all. Speaking of not feeling good, the menus are just atrocious. I said on Twitter it isn't quite as Battlefield 6, as I hated the menus in that game as well, but I went back to both games this morning, and I honestly think the menus in this game are worse. I had someone say I must just be stupid because they can understand it. No, empirical evidence does not mean something is good. Before Destiny 2 became the Portal, I understood those menus inside and out. That doesn't mean the menus in Destiny 2 are good. I just had thousands of hours in the game, so I knew my way around. I actively told friends not to play that game because it's just way too much to learn, and I know they don't have a lot of free time. And a big reason for that is the game's terrible onboarding and menus. A friend wanted to play PvP and was asking me how to. So that is just not good menu design. Just because you understand it and can navigate it does not mean it is objectively good. The menus in this game are flat out bad, as they are in Battlefield 6, which I called out in my review. I am just beside myself with how AAA game studios can't seem to figure out UX and UI, yet indie games seem to have no issues whatsoever. It's truly mind-boggling. So before even really playing the game, I was already put off. I had to navigate this terrible menu to adjust my keybinds, which I will say the keybind adjustment is good and intuitive, though as my friend pointed out, he can't unbind anything, which is another gripe I have. Why can you not unbind things? Instead, you just have to assign it to a key that you'll never interact with. Again, that's just bad and lazy game design. And speaking of another setting that I dislike, in the game you have a melee ability which is like a punch, but then you also have a knife, which isn't your melee punch. Like the knife is actually a weapon that you select, so if you use mouse scroll to swap weapons, it will pull out your knife. This honestly really sucks. Please just let us take it out of the scroll wheel. It just does not feel good at all. Speaking of that friend I played with, his last name is Hitchcock. Yes, like cock. Well, his Steam name is spelled C-A-W-K because it has to be thanks to moderation filters. Well, I saw a clip of people trying to type Arc Raiders and Pete Parsons into the game chat, and it censors those words. Censorship is beta coward behavior, so I just wanted to call that out. Don't censor your fucking players.
I hate Arc Raiders.
Watch this, watch this, watch this, watch this.
It did block out Arc, now it doesn't.
Yeah.
Oh. You can type love. You can't say that you love Arc Raiders.
No way.
no way.
I love Arc Raiders.
Arc Raiders.
I hate Arc Raiders.
Arc Raiders. I love Arc Raiders. I love Overwatch.
That's the pettiness that.
No way.
Marvel Rivals. I love Counter-Strike. I love Arc Raiders. Wow, there it is.
And speaking of censorship, Bungie was scared to implement prox chat for fear of toxicity, but finally lamented thanks to feedback. And by all accounts, no one uses it in this game anyways. So after 9 minutes, that finally brings us to the most important factor of any video game to me, the gameplay. How is it? Honestly, it's fine. It's totally serviceable. Just as Highguard and Concord were. I didn't play Concord, but a lot of people actually liked the gameplay. I did, however, play a lot of Highguard as I mentioned, and I really enjoyed that gameplay. Honestly, probably more than Marathon. Why? Because it's more action-packed, and the TTK is much better. That's time to kill if you don't know. Sure, Highguard has less guns and stuff, but they do feel good to shoot. And everyone loves to talk about how great Bungie shooting is, but honestly, I didn't find it any better than Apex Legends. And in fact, the TTK is so fast in this game that I found it less engaging than Apex or Highguard, because it was basically if you shoot first, you win. In Highguard, you actually felt awesome winning a gunfight in a 1v1 duel, because the balance in that game is really, really good. You have to hit all your shots, or you'll have to reload or swap weapons to clean up the kill. In this one, it is much more forgiving. Again, it is mostly, if you shoot first, you're gonna win the gunfight. Marathon lovers say this is because it's early game, so as you get better armors like epics and legendaries, the gunfights will feel better. Well, Highguard has rarity tiers, and they scale each round. Maybe the white and green weapons should be underpowered so that the fights last longer in the early game when people have crappy shields. It would make the PvP fights in Marathon feel a lot better. I didn't find the PvP fights in this game nearly as fun as Arc Raiders when I played their server slam. But again, that's just my opinion and my personal preference. I also saw people saying that PvP was too few and far between, and that may be true, but that also sort of just comes down to RNG. We had enough battles that I personally was satisfied with the frequency, but again, I was underwhelmed by the fights themselves. So how about fighting the UESC, which are the game's PvE enemies? Well, there is a supercharged enemy that kicks the absolute shit out of you. Maybe these will be easier to take down when you are geared up, but in the early game, that thing is way too strong. Outside of that, I actually quite like them. They're fairly easy to kill, but sometimes they come in and swarm you with like 8 at once and take you down. Honestly, I think they're pretty good overall. Not too tanky or overtuned, but also not just a pushover. The balance seemed good in my experience. Later in my playthrough, I unlocked the shotgun, and that thing was ripping through the PvE enemies, as well as other enemy players. That thing is strong as hell, but it's balanced well because you can only shoot 2 shots before having to reload. Speaking of weapons, they are fine. Again, everyone praises Bungie for their gunplay, but it was just perfectly fine. I honestly think Destiny 2 has better gunplay. One area it is definitely better is weapon sound design. I think Ace of Spades is the ultimate weapon to shoot in that game. It feels so crispy and has one of the most iconic sounds of any weapon. Cataclysmic is a linear fusion rifle that, even after not playing D2 for a year, I can still hear in my head. It's iconic. Bungie are masters at sound design. Their subclass abilities also have incredible identity. It truly is the most underrated thing in Destiny in my opinion. So all that is to say, I was quite surprised at the homogeny and lack of distinctive sounds in Marathon. No weapon sounded distinct or memorable.
Came back up. God damn it.
Got one. Maybe it's just the early game weapons being very basic and it gets better, but I thought it was worth pointing out. And speaking of sound, music goes hand in hand with that, and again, Bungie kills it in the soundtrack department. On stream, I said the music sounds moody, but others were saying it just sounds unsettling. Whatever the case, it's not as memorable as Destiny music, that's for sure. But love it or hate it, it at least does fit with the theme of the game. Speaking of things Bungie does well, skyboxes. Dreaming City is one of the most gorgeous destinations I've had the pleasure of playing in any video game. In Marathon, the maps don't feel that compelling or awe-inspiring. Maybe that's the vibe of the world that they're going for, or maybe that is the small sample size that I've played and the future maps or endgame maps will be much cooler. Another thing that my friend Hitchcock pointed out is that the game feels very slow. He said it in the first game that we played, and I totally agree. We were 100 meters from an extraction point, and it took forever to move 100 meters. Like, slower than humans just actually walking. Movement feels like shit in this game. The heat meter or stamina or whatever you want to call it is way overtuned in my opinion, but that's thanks to the game's genre. It has to feel like shit at base because you're supposed to build into upgrading your stats. I get that, but that still doesn't make it feel any better in the early game. It just leaves you with a very unfun feeling when first playing the game, and first impressions really matter for live service games. Again, I played the Arc Raiders Server Slam, but I didn't find the stamina system nearly as obnoxious as in Marathon. Speaking of Arc Raiders, I immediately was drawn into its world, especially because of the sound design. I noticed it in my first play session, and I was impressed throughout. Looting cars and lockers just felt so good. It felt like you were actually cracking open a trunk with a pry bar. In Marathon, I did not get that same immersion. Again, I just feel like they really dropped the ball with the audio design. And then when it came to looting, again, it just doesn't feel all that good. Something about the text in this game just does not feel good to read. I never noticed it in Arc Raiders, despite also not knowing what any of the items I was picking up were. I could either learn it intuitively, like a med pack looking like a real-life med kit, or I would read about it at a glance. In Marathon, I can't describe what it is that makes it so obnoxious to read, other than that it just is, at least to me. It's just very off-putting in a way that I can't really describe, and nothing feels intuitive. So the gameplay is slow, the shooting is fine, but what about the next most important aspect to an extraction shooter? The progression. What are we doing these extraction runs for? What is the payoff? Again, nothing felt intuitive here. In Arc Raiders, I was instantly understanding the leveling system and the upgrade paths and the vendors and where to go and what to do. Maybe it's just the convoluted menus, but it just felt janky in Marathon. Again, I can't really describe it in a good way, but it just doesn't feel like it gives you a natural urge to explore and find loot, where with Arc Raiders, it felt much more streamlined and easy to understand. You have contracts that you complete, and they're pretty fun to do as it gives you an objective to focus on each run, so that's nice, it gives you some direction. But I saw someone saying that they wish you could do multiple contracts at once, as being efficient and getting lots done is one of their favorite things about the genre. And I totally agree. And I have really bad news for that person because Bungie fucking loves their time gating, so get used to it. And speaking of looting, holy shit is ammo hard to come by out in the world. This was honestly very obnoxious. If you didn't go in loaded with ammo, you were gonna have a bad time. You can get ammo crates, and maybe using these is the way you're intended to get ammo, but yeah, it just did not feel good. We got in one PvP fight, and I just couldn't help my team. It felt really bad. I did knife a guy though. Speaking of teams, I played solo, duo, and trio as I did in Arc Raiders, and again, Arc wins out here. I really enjoyed my solo runs, where in this game, it just didn't feel nearly as good. I can't really put my finger on why. That being said, trio is definitely the way to go. Much more fun with a whole squad. During my playthrough, I stuck mainly to the support class, aka triage. It has a very good kit as it can slowly heal you, which will save you on using up your med packs, which are also extremely hard to find in my experience. Also, while we're on the topic, the cost to buy things like ammo and med packs is also absurdly high and needs to be tweaked. But back to the shells, their combat abilities are pretty nice and can be enhanced with upgrades found in the world. This gives a real depth to build crafting that won't be felt until you're dozens of hours into the game. So this aspect of the game is quite nice, and the abilities themselves seem very useful. My friend TJ was on recon our whole time playing, and that kit is also very powerful. I loved having a recon on the team, and I loved that the abilities mattered. One thing I called out in my high guard review was that the abilities are damn near useless. In Marathon, they seem really well balanced. Not OP, but at least they're helpful, so props there. The character design, on the other hand, oof. Listen, I was immersed in Bungie from 2017 to 2025. Back in like 2022 when they first teased Marathon, I thought the aesthetic was dope as hell. And then they launched that cinematic trailer and the world seemed very cool and intriguing. And the art style, though partly plagiarized, was very unique and dope. Polarizing, sure, not for everyone, but very cool for the people who like it. But the execution in-game? Jesus Christ, man, it just really falls flat. The characters look dope as hell in marketing, but they look pretty silly in-game, particularly Vandal, who people loved in the marketing footage, but in the game looks kind of like a dorky clown, just kind of standing there all awkward. I don't know, in-game it just does not hit the same. Speaking of marketing, Bungie is the best in the biz at this, trust me. They've made some pretty shit Destiny seasons look awesome as hell in the lead up. They're masters at this shit. They also did an ARG puzzle for Marathon, and people were hyped on that, just as they were with the aesthetic of the game. It's funny, everything around this game, people wanted to love. The world and art design, they're all super intriguing and neat. And then we get a bland extraction shooter. Imagine this same world, but as a deep narrative RPG. It could be fucking amazing if I'm honest. I watched all the faction cutscenes and they're quite cool. Again, great job to the cinematics team. If you played Destiny, you know Bungie can cook up some incredible lore, like insanely deep. I have no doubt there are tons of cool secrets and lore tidbits in Marathon, but I doubt very many people are ever going to experience them. Again, I've never disliked reading text in a game more than this one. And then if you have to do the hardest content to find the coolest lore and secrets, that just won't happen for the vast majority. Destiny players know that only like 10% of the player population even runs raids, and raids and dungeons are bar none the best content in Destiny. But most people don't even experience the best part of the game. I have a sneaking suspicion that Marathon will be the same. I think they have some cool world building here, but only the diehards will be dedicated enough to see it. Finally, from a technical perspective, it wasn't all that great. There are mouse input issues depending on your video settings, and with a 4090 only running 1440, not 4K, I was getting between 80 to 140 FPS, and sometimes I'd get the odd big frame drop. I'm not sure how it was running for others, but with such a high-powered rig, I would expect a rock-steady 144Hz. That being said, visually, it looks a hell of a lot better than it did back in the alpha playtest like last April or whenever that was. I didn't play it, but my god it looked bad. So I'm happy they cleaned up the visuals. Some people spoke of visual clutter, but I didn't really have that experience personally. And the in-game UI isn't too bad. You have a map and key info. It wasn't award-winningly good, but it was not noticeably bad either. Just perfectly serviceable as a UI should be. It had all the info that I would want and not too much or too little. As far as the server slam, I did get disconnected a couple times and once while I was extracting. Luckily, I did keep my loot, so that was cool. Overall, stability was fine, which shocked me, again, because I know how Bungie can be with their error codes on a launch day. Now, here's the elephant in the room. Bungie also loves their season passes and time gating and in-game store. So the game is already quite mid to begin with, and I will not be shocked to see their scummy practices in action in the future. So just be prepared for that. You can't get a sense of it in the server slam, but it will be implemented, just trust me. So to sum it all up, what are my thoughts on Marathon? Well, I was never going to buy this game in the first place. People familiar with my content know that I'm no fan of Bungie, so I did not want to support them monetarily in any way, shape, or form. And even if it wasn't a Bungie game, I'm still not the target audience. I really enjoyed Arc Raiders in the server slam. I played it for 12 hours on stream and I wanted to play more. Marathon, I streamed for 5 hours and I was ready to get off. Though I want to be clear, I didn't hate my time with it. I played the COD 7 beta a few months back for 3 hours, I think, but I had enough after 1 hour. That game was awful. But as for Marathon, again, I'm not the intended demographic. If I didn't buy Arc Raiders despite really enjoying my time with it, I certainly wouldn't buy Marathon, which gave me no real memorable moments to speak of. Do I hate the game? No. Did I love it? No. It was just a perfectly average video game. I'm in the middle of grinding Mugenics right now. I have over 30 hours into it, and I want to play that game in every spare moment that I have. It is fun as hell, and I love when video games give you that feeling. Marathon did not give me that feeling. Do I think it will be like Concord or Highguard? I do not. Marathon does have a deep progression system which will keep players invested in coming back. As I said with Highguard, I played for just over 30 hours, and that was enough. I had been there and done that. Marathon, on the other hand, has staying power with how it is designed. It will find a core community of diehard gamers, but I don't think it will be as big as Apex Legends or Arc Raiders or anything. It is just not that type of game. It doesn't have broad appeal. And that's fine. Bungie themselves has said that this is not a game for everyone. Time will tell if it's for enough people to keep the lights on though. That will be anybody's guess, and I'm excited to see how it all plays out. Anyways, that's it from me. Check out my second channel for more game reviews. I posted this on main because of my Bungie following. Also, as I said, come check me out on Twitch at itsizzle7 and join the community Discord where we talk about games that we love. As I mentioned, Mugenics is absolutely incredible and you should check it out. Finally, thanks so much for watching if you're still here, it means a lot. Let me know your thoughts on Marathon down below. Do you love it, hate it, or land somewhere in the middle like me? I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.